Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. All right, y'all. Here we go again. Once again, we are in this nice, wonderful, great show. Taking this hat off because it's hot. So I don't want to be hot when I'm having a conversation with you all. Welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show, where we answer your questions related to Scrum, Agile, entrepreneurship, things of that nature. I might even answer some personal questions. Nah, I doubt it. But today is going to be a day full of fun, adventure, and we're going to see what we're going to talk about. Before I do anything else, I just want to tip my hat, the hat I just took off. I want to tip that hat to the actual people that actually helped me with the show. All the moderators in the back, and they're you see a few of them right here. There are more than that in the back that's helping out. Please, they'll wave at you at some point, but it's normally a little bit behind on YouTube. But the idea is that these are the folks that are helping me out in the background. That's not all of them, but they are there, and I absolutely could not do this without them. Trust me. They are here helping me, helping you, and we're just going to get this thing going. So thank you all for helping me, my mod crew there, the unfiltered crew is what I call them, and we just kind of go from there. That being said, just to give you an idea of how this show works, this is a digital call-in show, which means that we really do want people to call in and ask their questions. Now, when in order to call in, what you need to do is you need to join our Discord server. You can see that at the bottom of the screen, how you would go about joining that Discord server. Now, when you join a Discord server, you would need to join a waiting room. And then in that waiting room, one of our moderators will grab you and just kind of make sure that you got a question first and foremost. Make sure you're not a troll. But then on top of that, they're going to check to make sure your audio is good. And we talk about the little rules that need to be talked about. And then we can kind of go from there with everything that we actually need to do. So you are welcome. For all the people that's just watching on YouTube, that's perfectly fine. You're there to listen, to see what's happening. Do not be afraid. Whatever you do not be afraid to come and ask a question. Because guess what? There's no dumb questions. And I know that a lot of times we may have quite a few newbies here, and they may ask a lot of similar questions. But please, please, please be patient. We are here to help everybody, no matter what level. If you don't know me, my name is Devon Morris. I am your guide on this show. I am the guide on this journey. I'm just here to help out. I'm just going to be a servant leader here, helping you out. Some of the advice I may give you may be stupid, but hopefully it will be helpful. That's the objective. The main objective is for all the advice that I give you to be helpful to some degree. Now, that being said, I want to go ahead and get us moving, get us started. Last week was actually Martin Luther King's birthday. Next Monday is going to be the actual start of Black History Month. Today, I think, was the Opposites Day. You're supposed to do something opposite, right? I'm going to send out more information about that, but at least that day is this week. I think it was today. What else do I want to tell you? Next week, we will make available the Unfiltered community. There is a community that we're building where we will have groups and everything else like that, where you can come join that group and stuff that I put out to the universe, like, some of the infographics and stuff like that will all be housed on that actual community. So we'll have groups, forums, a way for you to connect with each other. And then I'll be offering classes and stuff like that in the future. We can go from there. Other than that, you'll see me in a CSM, CSPO class, project management class, or something of that nature, if you do decide to attend that stuff. Other than that, it looks like we're good, and it looks like we can go ahead and get ready to get started. So, first thing I want to do is I want to actually unmute my guest, and hopefully, my guest is ready to come on in. And I am going to bring my guest in right now and say, hey, do you hear me? My guest, Joanne, can you hear me? I
Yes,
hear
I
you
could hear you.
typing. Okay. Now, you don't see
No, because I
Joanne on the
have a
screen
colleague that wanted to
because,
get on the
again,
show.
Joanne wanted to make sure that she did not have a face there, and that's perfectly fine. So, Joanne, you actually have a question. So, I'll go ahead with your question. Please move forward and ask it.
Yes, yes. I have a question. My question is, I was hired as my title was at a technical program manager, but as far as I know, I was going to be a Scrum Master since they don't call it Scrum Master, they call it TPM.
Okay.
And then they bring me in.
Mm-hmm.
They already had the sprint started.
Okay.
However, every time we are about to start the next PI,
Yeah.
every other Scrum team coming back and say, "Oh, we have a dependency on your team. Is a priority." And
Mm-hmm.
I was never introduced with the vision of the mission where we're going. We're supposed to be working a security project.
Mm-hmm.
My team is more like an IT team, but the project is for the security scope. As
Okay.
of today, I don't see the work breakdown structure.
Okay.
And the product owner, sometimes he's not aligned. He's not saying no. He's accepting everything in the backlog
Okay.
after a sprint already started.
Okay.
So right now, I have my first PI planning starting tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
The product owner, I haven't met with him yet. We had a scrum with the other team. Everybody coming back. We have a priority. We have a priority. And then I asked today, isn't that priority supposed to be coming from the product owner? Why are you guys is coming? Oh, you guys have a priority for him to do. You have dependency on him.
Okay.
So how do I handle stuff like that with a product owner? Because he's not learning to say no. How do I coach him?
Well, let's make sure that we're clear about several things here. So I have a couple questions for you. Okay. The first question is TPM. That stands for Technical Project Manager. Yes.
Well, my the title is technical program manager.
Technical Program Manager. Okay. All right. Great. 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 Which means that you're working at a higher level than a typical project. So that means you have several projects under you as a
So that
program
means that
manager. Is that
I have
correct?
two projects under me and I have
Okay.
two Scrum team.
Okay. All right. So,
They work in two different initiatives and they're not related to one another.
okay.
One is
Okay.
building the network and one is more on the security side.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. Understandable. Now, in terms of when you say PI planning, that harkens towards something that we know in our world called SAFE, the Scale Agile Framework. So, are you all using SAFE?
Yes, they're using safe.
Okay. And so, part of SAFE is to have release train managers, right? RTMs. Part of having SAFE is actually doing PI planning at particular junctions, like every 6 to 8 weeks or whatever that number is, right?
That is correct. That is
Okay.
correct. They're supposed to have a release train engineer, which I am the acting release train engineer,
Okay.
and I'm also they got me working as a program manager and sometimes a project manager. I'm not actually doing Scrum, which I was brought in to do.
Okay. And that's probably exactly where I'm about to take you. You're not really doing Scrum, you're actually doing a lot of coordination. And I want you to understand the significant difference between that coordination and in terms of Scrum. With Scrum, you obviously have a team that you're working with. And it sounds like to me, if I was to really boil things down and just think about you and what you're doing, and you tell me if I'm wrong or not, help me out so I can help everybody else out. When it comes to your product owner, does your product owner really have a choice on what they have to pull in?
Do they have a what?
Do they have a choice?
Do they have a choice?
Mm-hmm.
When
So
you
let me
say
just let
do
me
they
give you an example so then we're real clear. Okay. I have been on some efforts where we have had a scrum team, and that scrum team ended up being probably like three scrum teams. But then we had another team that supported those three scrum teams. And that person had to do everything that these three scrum teams needed because they needed infrastructure and other things that needed to be done for them to do their work at a higher level, which turned my that one product owner, agile coach, scrum team, it turned them really into just an operational project where they had to just do everything that the other people needed to do because they really had no choice. Okay. It sounds like you may be caught up in that situation.
That's exactly where I'm caught up
Okay.
because the team actually we I was giving a team because everybody in the team they have their role what they're supposed to be doing and they
Mm-hmm.
have a product owner assigned. It just now I got caught up in the middle where everybody said, "Oh, before since my team is more on the endpoint side, and the operation they doing more like the endpoint work." So the
Okay.
team said, "Oh, before we could do this, we need your team to. We have a dependency on your team to do that."
Yeah. Now, here's the bigger question I would ask you. And if it was me, I would probably start by taking a couple of approaches. Okay. The biggest problem you have is always going to be with coordination of things because you don't have a lot of control over a ton of things. So you're going to have to figure out a way to establish that control. Okay. And when I say control, I'm not saying to you that you're trying to be a dictator. Okay. You're in a position where you can't really be a dictator. You're in a position where you're going to have to help out everyone else. Okay. You're going to have to help out everyone else in terms of doing their job, in terms of doing what they need to do. So the only way you really can truly get ahead of that is by working with them other teams a little closer. You may have to work with them to kind of map things out to some degree. Now, when I say map things out to some degree, get an idea of what's happening in the future. Now, understand, Joanne, nothing that I'm saying to you has anything to do with Scrum. It has everything to do with coordination. Okay. So I know you muted yourself, but I want you to come off of mute for just a minute. And I know we have a bunch of
No, the
background.
reason I put you on because I'm hearing a lot of static.
Okay, no problem. I got you. So now I got another question for you. Um, do you have the opportunity with your product owner to actually plan ahead and work with those other teams to get an understanding of what's coming down the pipe for them? Can you do that? Because a big part of PI planning is so that you have an idea of what's coming down the pipe collectively. That's what PI planning is supposed to be a part of, right?
Yes. So the other team they did give me all the stuff that's coming down the pipeline, a list of all the objective, all the feature
Mm-hmm.
that they need my team to deliver. So now tomorrow, and I know my product owner, he has a scope of stuff that he needs to focus on. So to me, I want him to say that, hey, can you handle this? Not only him could handle this. Do you have? Is I want the team to tell me, do they have the capacity plus the work we already have in our backlog plus those new work these people introduce, which are the highest priority, and do we have a capacity to do them?
Okay. I think that what you're really doing and what you will have to deal with is more coordination than anything else. The problem you have is that you're going to have to really take time and work with them through figuring out what is coming down the pipe in the next few sprints. That is going to help you. That will help you to eliminate your product owner always saying we have a new emergency, we have to do this, we have to do that, and you just want to get out of that emergency place where you're like, okay, we always got something brand new coming up. but you're always going to have different things coming up just as a part of what you need to do. So, my statement to you is use PI planning to help you out tremendously. That's going to help you coordinate what's coming down the pipe. Now, what I would say to you is I would go and have a conversation with the product owner, like individually with the product owner, and say, look, us bringing things on all of a sudden, no problem. But can we find a way to limit that to where 50% of the stuff we have planned and 50% of our time is dedicated toward just new things that come up? That way we can get things done that have been planned for in PI planning and have room for all these new things that are kind of dropping inside on you. If you can do that, that would probably help you a whole lot. But that is going to be working closely. I mean, when I say working closely, think hand in hand with your product owner. You're going to have to get real close and start working with them on this because you want to position yourself to kind of, sort of get ahead. But do you need all that stuff to be that way? You don't. If you can at least tackle 50% of it and say 50% of the stuff is planned while 50% of it is available for you to deal with unknowns, then you'll be in a much better position. And then as you're new now, you'll get better and better at that over time, and the planning and everything else will get better. So I do believe that you can deal with that, but just remember, Joanne, it is truly a thing of coordination for you. Okay? It's one of those things where you're not jumping heavy in the scrum, it is coordination. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes
Okay.
perfect sense.
So that was a good question. Does that help you?
Yes, thank you. It
Okay, well,
does.
I appreciate you calling. You are definitely welcome to call back. I know that you'll have more questions in the future. I look forward to hearing how this goes for you. And just stay in touch, okay? I appreciate you.
Thank you, Devon.
Have a
I
good one,
appreciate
okay?
that. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye bye.
Okay, everyone. That's one of those situations with Joanne where they're doing safe, and safe does require some coordination. Regardless of how you feel about safe, it doesn't matter to me. Is in her situation, she has several teams that have a need, and with several teams that have a need, you have to solve those problems. And we can go around and say to ourselves all day, hey, go do scrum, go do complete scrum, do more pure scrum. But ain't nobody on the planet running absolute pure scrum. Well, maybe there is somebody, but the idea is that I have rarely seen it. Now, that being said, her biggest problem is going to be around coordination. So we're dealing with that. I think she's going to have a tremendous amount of success, and then we'll be able to go from there. So I have another guest on the line here that I'm going to kind of pull in, and we're going to go ahead and move them from the green room into our space here, so and then we can actually have a conversation. So let's go ahead and pull in Melon. Melon, how you doing now? I remember
Devon,
you.
how are
You can
you,
hear me.
sir?
You can hear me, right?
Yes.
And I
Can
can
you
hear
hear me?
you.
All right.
This is good. Yeah, I say that to Melon. I say that for a reason, right? Because Melon, she met Melon January 4th, right? So not too long ago. So and she actually showed up on our first show, being someone who isn't doing Scrum all the time, who's just kind of getting started, right? And had the guts to show up on the first show. But when she showed up on the first show, her audio and video wouldn't work for us, even though she was in class with me all day. I mean, she was literally with me in class all day, gave me all kinds of problems all day during that class. Video had no problems, audio had no problems, but when it came to the show, all kinds of problems. That being said, that's good. So, Melon, you have a question. What's going on? Oh, Melon, now you don't have no voice. Oh, Melon, you went out on me. Yeah, I got you here. I was hearing you just a second ago. Let's see. And I can't pull you anyplace. I got you right here. Am I gonna have to come back to you, Melon? Still don't hear you. Let's see. I
Uh,
look out here. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
All
Sounds
right.
good. All right. Um, brand new to Scrum.
Yes, ma'am.
I have not. done anything other than observe and take in your class.
Mm-hmm.
I have reached out to the current Scrum Master on our team
Yeah.
and have I've already committed to facilitate the ceremonies in the next couple weeks. I want to know, and I've never, aside from Scrum, I've never put myself out there to like lead anything or be in charge of anything. I've always taken the back seat.
Mm-hmm.
Just just my So how can I keep it very simple, basic, very efficient, while still having the team look at me in a different set of lenses and me push past this first milestone for me, and build a little confidence. I know I got your last what got me to this point was your last
Mm-hmm.
um advice on, just get out there and just
Yeah.
do it, while still hopefully getting feedback, honest feedback, because I don't want them to not to hold back and not really be honest with me because they don't want to hurt my feelings, because we're friends and,
Mm-hmm.
and coworkers. But I
Yeah.
really want to, I probably won't have all this reservation if I was on a completely different team where I didn't have the emotional attachment to the people. But I feel this may be something I might have to deal with, and I just don't know how to handle it.
Hey, guess what? What you just
Yes, sir.
said is the same exact thing that you should say to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what you
Okay.
just expressed is the same exact thing, right? Because they're going to support you. They know you, right? You're in a unique situation in having people that know you. Like when I go into a place, it's with a bunch of people that don't know me, and so they don't have to spare my feelings whatsoever. But with a group of people that you know and you have a relationship with, I am going to assume that you've been a nice person to them, that you've been good to them overall, and that they have no problem with supporting you and seeing you grow into this great scrum master, great agile coach that you're going to grow into. It's just that you just let them know I'm learning and give me feedback. Help me out. I want to be the best that I can be for you. And what I always say to people, Melon, is I want to make you the best you that I can help you become, right? Because people will, when you sow seeds into people, it is always a good thing because it grows at some point. It may not be immediate, but it will grow at some point, right? And, it's one of those things when you think about the relationship that you and I have, for example, right? I'm sowing
Right.
seeds into you because I expect those seeds to grow. And the biggest thing that I would tell you to do, Melon, if I had one solid piece of advice for you, is one, um, do scrum on you.
Okay.
Sometimes I say this during class, but I'm a big proponent. When I went to USAA, I had left Capital One. I was 2 years in a scrum, so I'd done scrum a little bit, right? But I was really young, and I was intimidated by folks. So what I did is I did 1 day sprints on me. When in the morning, sprint planning, lunchtime, daily scrum, evening, sprint review, sprint retrospective. It was mostly combined, right? So then I
Mhm.
can figure out what I need to do every day to get better. Okay. Now understand what I'm saying. I'm asking you to work on getting yourself better every day. You're working with the team because what's going to happen is it's going to be like something like this. You're going to have sprint planning and you're going to say, you know what? I could have taught that a little bit differently. Or I could have done this a little differently. Or I could
Right.
have done that a little differently. And those little nuggets that you're taking that's happening over time, that you're learning, you're going to improve on just step by step, bit by bit, little piece by little piece. So, literally, when I say to you, I have 15 coaches. I actually was talking to one of my colleagues, well, one of my person that I work with, because I ended up leaving Capital One and getting to USA, and they hired me the same day. I mean, they literally hired me the same
Mhm.
day. Morning, I had an interview. Afternoon, they was like, "Come on in, come, we want you," right? And so I moved from Richmond on down to San Antonio, and he remembered me carrying mumbles around. I don't know. Some of y'all have seen my penguin, right? And I would carry mumbles around the actual the actual building. I literally carried this stuffed animal around the entire building. I don't know if you've seen Mumbles before, but
Yeah.
you've seen Mumbles, right? And
Yeah.
I did that because that was a security blanket for me.
Right.
I'm an introvert. Most people don't believe that, but I'm an introvert at heart. And with me being an introvert at heart, it means I'm not willing to jump out there. I need to take steps back. I need to find ways to get my energy back. I need to do all those things. And so, literally, me carrying around Mumbles was my security blanket. Okay. It was my
Mhm.
way of having this token alongside of me to kind of put those fears into, because
Mhm.
I was afraid of executives. I was afraid of people who had a better position than me or a title than me, right? I was a little nervous about those things because I just wasn't used to it, right? When I first got into Scrum Melon, I was fortunate because I had this guy, and I'll mention him by his name. His name is Tom Meller, right? When I worked at State Farm, right? He ended up being the director of the Scrum Alliance once Ken Schwaber left it. And what happened is he was so dogmatic about doing Scrum at State Farm, and all I did was get on his wing. I didn't know what to do,
Mm.
right? This guy's crazy. I'm thinking to myself, he's crazy. He gonna take on this whole company, and he's gonna change this whole company, and they don't even want to change. But I was able to get on his wing, right? And when I got on his wing, it helped build that confidence. And my title wasn't Scrum Master. My title was Project Planner. I went on to Capital
Mhm.
One. My title wasn't Scrum Master. My title was Agile Project Manager. And I was able to kind of latch on to a couple people there when Capital One was doing this big transformation in 2006, 2007. And then when I went to USAA, they put me on a team with two people. They gave me two teams. And those had two female project managers that was trying to get me fired every day. It was literally every day. And they was just trying to get me
Mhm.
fired because they didn't want to do something that was different. And
Mhm.
what I had to realize is they weren't upset at me. They just didn't want to change. The culture wasn't trying to change. So even though I was like, we're doing Scrum, in the culture, they was just like, we're going to do this the same, and this the same, and this the same, and this the same. And we're going to do everything the same and still do Scrum. And that doesn't make any sense. And so
Right.
now, what you got to do as a newbie is you got to go ahead and you got to start with that gradual process of knowing you're going to make mistakes, right? Knowing it is tough to jump out there, knowing that your heart is just pounding when you first go into that first event, right?
Mhm.
Knowing all those things are going to happen to you. That first retrospective, you might have some difficulty, right? But guess what? Once you get that first one done, it's like the first night you bring a baby home.
Mhm.
Once you get the first night done, it's kind of better the second night.
Yep.
And so it's one of those things where I have 6 kids, right?
Mm.
Everybody don't know that, but I got 6 kids, and with having 6 kids, they all have different personalities, and there's always things that I got to do that's different. And guess what I use on them, Melon? Scrum.
Scrum. Yep.
I use Scrum, right? And when I think about my willingness to take risk, I think about my ability to do things, how I want to change or act or whatever it is. I always go back to my fears because with my first kid, the fear that I had was in holding the kid because I never,
Mm.
growing up, I never would hold anybody's kids, not until they knew how to say my name. Then I'd officially hold them. When they knew how to say my name, then I'd officially talk to them, right? So that was my whole way of getting them out of not holding anybody's kids. And I had all types of people had kids around me. So I got away from it by doing that, right?
Mhm.
But me holding my baby for the first time, man, that changed. Then it became easier the second time and easier
Right.
the third time. So all you really have to do, Melon, is you have kids, you've had nervousness on that and other things before. You're just going to have to go ahead and bite the bullet and do it. No, no, I'm not going to be perfect. No, I am going to make a mistake or two. Know that those kind of things are going to happen. You can't get away from that. It is human to err. And so if you're going to have errors, the best thing that you can have in the world is a support system, and you have a better benefit than most other people that are jumping into the world of Scrum. I always say to people, because I get a lot of people that want to jump into Scrum and actually change jobs, do this, do that, and that's fine, that's okay. But it is so much of a benefit to be around a team that knows you.
Yep.
You know,
I have a great team, and then I think this is a kind of an upside of COVID. I'm in my own
mhm,
home, in my own environment,
yeah.
and even though we're respectful and have our cameras on, it's fine. But I think this is a good, safe place for me to do it now. Maybe it all turned out for the best.
No, 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 no. It's no maybe. I need you to
It
let go.
has it.
Right. I need you to let go of. I need you to let go of the not so positive thinking.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is something that a self. I have to work on that a lot.
Well, and I want you to. Okay, now with you and me, I'm gonna make it really personal. Okay, without making it really personal. You wrote me a letter, and you touched me. Now, for you to write a stranger out of the blue, you live. I don't even. I don't even go to your
Yeah.
coast. Like I don't go to your coast. Like you stay on the West Coast, right? Okay.
Yes.
I don't go to your coast. I'm too afraid of getting swallowed up by an actual earthquake or something. You know, in Chicago, I'm from Chicago, but I live in Texas. You can run from you have a chance of running from a tornado. You got a chance. I got hit by a hurricane in Miami, so you got a chance of getting away from that because they let you know about that kind of stuff, right? Earthquakes you can't run from, right? So you can't run from that kind of stuff. So since you're on that coast, I'm not sure if it's gonna fall off the planet or whatever. But the idea though is you actually reached out to a stranger that you had no clue about that stranger whatsoever, and you were able to take that risk. Now understand,
Yeah.
you were able to take that risk. Now it may be a little bit anonymous, but I would say that is comparable. That is comparable to having people who you do know. Because the people that you do know, with the person that you are, I'm sure that you're a wonderful and lovely person to them. Okay? I am sure you are that to them. I am sure that they look at you and be like, you take care of us all the time. And part of being a scrum master is taking care of people. Taking care of people, right? Back in the day, I wanted to one thing that I've one thing that I've noticed um, is that when I go into an organization, people are always hesitant to do Scrum, be the first ones to do Scrum. But I also noticed in a conversation I was having with my guy this past week, last week, I'm assuming, um, he said to me and pointed out to me that everybody, and this is in 2007 when I went to USA, he said everybody that we work with in the beginning all have gotten major promotions over time. They're running major areas at this point. They're doing big stuff, or they've gone onto organizations and doing bigger stuff there. So I am always trying to make people's lives better. Okay. Put people in the best position I can put them in so they can go after whatever it is that they want to go after. So I say the same thing to you. You can do that for them. Now, that does mean that you sacrifice yourself a little bit. That does mean that, right? But all of us aren't looking to be the president of the company. All of us aren't looking to do all these different things. A lot of us are just looking to help other people. And if you're genuinely looking to help other people, you are in an amazing position. You will be able to do great things for them, and they'll be super happy with everything that you do and the little mistakes that you make along the way. You'll beat yourself up about it. You will. Okay, I
Yeah.
do that. No problem. Um, but just know this: you'll get better, and that's the key statement. I'm not. If I can go back to the Scrum Master from 2005 and think about my fears, think about what I did, all the things I didn't know, the questions I didn't know, not the right questions to ask, just all those things that I just wasn't aware of. If I can go back to that guy and show him me, he would be proud. And I have this firm belief that if you go back to you 10 years, 1 year, 1 year down the road, forget 1 year, 6 months down the road, I guarantee you, you will look and say to yourself, yeah, that was really, really amazing and good. So I think that you have a wonderful time ahead of you. And I'm going to say to you, we are going to be opening up since Black History Month is starting February 1. And since I'm black, native black, I am going to actually kick off the Unfiltered community. And in that Unfiltered community, I want you to join it and remain connected with us so then you have a support system. I want you to have a
Always.
support system. Okay. So on that note, Melon, you know I appreciate you. And I
I
know
appreciate you always.
you
Yes.
and you
Thank
know
you
I know
so much. Thank
you
you
know
so much.
and look, you got my
Mm,
support. You got the support of the Unfiltered community. So don't ever think you're out there by yourself, okay? So you make
yeah.
sure you do it and then just come back and keep telling us, keep talking to us. I want you to come back on this show and talk about what kind of success you're having because I know
Okay.
you're going to have that, okay? Melon, I appreciate you. Anything
All right.
else?
I wore purple for you today.
That's a good thing. Got my purple hat. I got the bras right there. So all day. So thank you. I appreciate you. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you
Thank you
soon,
so much.
Melon. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bye bye. Yeah, y'all. That was an excellent call. Again, I know Melon will call back, again and again and again. And I encourage everybody, one of the big problems I've always had is having a support system. And when I first started Scrum, I really didn't have a support system. Okay. I've kind of found ways to build my support system, but please, 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 whatever you do, make sure you have a support system. Because there are times when I want to cry and, you know, get a little emotional. I'm not going to get emotional here, but there's times I want to do that. And it's good to have people to do that with. Okay. So it is an amazing thing, right? I see people having good comments here. So that's a good thing. But I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on to another and pull someone else in. So let's go ahead and set this up, pull them on in, and get ourselves started here. I know you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you for some reason, Fidel. Unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead. One more time.
Can you hear me better now?
I can hear you now. How are you doing, my friend?
How are you? I'm great. I'm doing great. Thank
Man,
you.
you know I'm always good. For those that don't know, I actually worked closely with Fidel back in the day. How long ago was it? Probably 2, 3 years at this point.
It's almost 3 years.
Almost three
So
years,
thank
yeah.
you.
And Fidel was, here's now I'm gonna get some accolades here before I go anyplace else, since I've worked with you before, Fidel. The thing I will say to you about Fidel that I admired is that he was probably one of the very few people in the organization that grabbed Scrum and ran with it. Like, I worked with several Scrum Masters there, right? And he actually was doing stuff outside of the time we were spending together to make sure that his teams was amazing. And he was just going and going and getting knowledge and getting knowledge and getting knowledge, and was coming back to me like, I'm thinking about trying this. I'm thinking about trying that. And I'm just like, oh, slow down, man. I got to keep up with you, And so that was an amazing thing. It is always one of my first loves is to be on the ground coaching, and hopefully I don't ever lose that skill. But welcome, Fidel. It is nice to see you, brother. What kind of question do you
Thanks,
have?
Devon. But first, I want to say right back at you. I think you've done a great job when it came to our workplace. And I think your explanation and your presentation, your commitment to our team, I think made me you know, grasp to this concept. And I think looking back, you know, much to keep learning. Uh, do have a question. So we have our, you know, refinement meeting.
Yeah.
Then sprint comes the sprint planning.
Yeah.
And so I serve as a scrum master,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a product owner. So I'm trying to see if I feel that when sprint planning comes, it's almost like an extension to the refinement where, hey, it's almost like we already talked about these. Are we ready to commit? Yes. And then, oh, look, we finished 45 minutes. Um, here's the dilemma. We basically uh, go over the acceptance criteria and refine them in the refinement. Any more questions? PO goes to the DAs and the business comes back with the answers. We're understanding the acceptance criteria, but we're understanding the business use case better. So that's refinement. We get to the planning. We say, okay, we are committing enough. We're within our velocity, so we're good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, 2 days later, or during the sprint, I see these scenarios where the developer didn't realize, for example, I didn't realize this page actually has a common module with 5 other pages. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm stuck. I have to kind of find my workaround that. So my question, given that scenario, should
Mm-hmm.
we spend, given that we're finishing sprint planning in 45 minutes, or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes even less,
Okay.
and the common wisdom says for every week you spend to commit, you should spend 1.5 to 2 hours. So
Yeah.
should we commit some time, or should we utilize some of this time for like technical talk, where we talk to the developers, hey, let's look at the page, let's look at the code, let's discuss how we're going to tackle this, how like what's our strategy
Mm-hmm.
to like write this module that is
Mm-hmm.
needed here.
Yeah. Okay. So I understand. So let me give you an example, and I'm going to say to you, I have no problem with what you're thinking about. So for those that don't understand, and let me make sure I make it real clear, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Fidel. You're having planning. You are doing a good job at refinement. You're doing a good job at getting into the sprint planning and getting out of the sprint planning. You're just getting surprises when it comes down to the technical things that are happening and once you really start getting into the work, right?
That's it.
Okay. So I remember when I was at Capital One, we didn't have all the knowledge that we needed to have on the team. And so what we would do is right after sprint planning, we'd have a design meeting. We'd have a design meeting to deal with all the technical things that were coming or whatever was happening. Now that did mean that we didn't have to have everybody there. So we didn't have to have people who were good on whatever they needed to do and could move forward. But that design meeting didn't include the product owner, for example, because the product owner didn't have a whole lot of input into it because they gave us all the requirement stuff that we needed to have. So after every single sprint, I kid you not, we would have a design meeting right after sprint planning. I mean, we literally go sprint planning, design meeting right after, and we jump in that design meeting. And that design meeting would take 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And realistically, it's almost like you have of a 2 week sprint planning, you have a max of 4 hours. You normally spend a max of 2 hours is what you actually spend. But if you're getting it done in an hour, then I would say no problem with tagging a design meeting right after that to deal with how we are going to collectively attack this. Because what I found is that it was valuable for that team because we had a bunch of other touch points that we had to deal with. And we could say we can deal with all those touch points in planning, but it's really almost an extension of sprint planning for you. So realistically, I'm saying to you, go ahead, take a sprint, pick a sprint, and just run that experiment and see what the team feels about that experiment of actually having the design meeting right after. So it's literally you have sprint planning, you get generally done what you need to plan, let people go who don't need to be there, and then you jump right into, hey, let's talk about this technical stuff. Let's deal with how we're going to attack these things technically for this particular sprint. And that could mean that you're diving into opening up code or whatever it is, because that's literally what would happen for us. We would jump on our machines, jump into some code, do whatever we needed to do just to take a deeper dive and a deeper look. So I have no problem with you doing that in reality. You probably need to do that. And it sounds like there's a need for that, because it doesn't sound like the requirement is really the problem. It just sounds like the technical attack is the problem. How we're going to deal with it technically is the problem. And so I have no problem with, right after you jumping right into a design meeting or whatever you want to call it. Call it, whatever. Just call it a design meeting. And then do that and go from there. Now, what that meant for us is something really unique. And one other recommendation I would give for you is we had documentation. And so we had a design document that needed to be updated. And what we would do was update that every single sprint. So part of what would come out of our design would be the updates to the design artifact. And that design artifact means that it was never finished, but it was always a living document. So if you have artifacts like a design artifact or things that go along with that, my recommendation is to update those things as a part of that design meeting, as part of your output, part of your agreement. I've had situations for Dell where we didn't have design documents and we just had a whiteboard and we just put everything on a whiteboard, so then we knew what our current state was and everybody could see that. But if you have a place where you can have that, I would say do that and go for it. That should be something that you could do, and just run that experiment. Pick a sprint, run that experiment, see how it goes. I guarantee you it's going to go fine. Improve it, make it better. They're going to love it, roll with it, and kind of go from there. So I think that I have no problem with you doing a design document. I don't even a design meeting. I don't even think of it as Scrum, but I just think of it as a part of you doing what you need to do for the team to be better positioned to be as effective as they can be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I like this idea, because with that we relieve the product owner. Sometimes I think maybe they feel, oh, the product owner is losing patience because he's hearing things that he doesn't understand. Like, can I move on?
Yeah, no.
Because I have, 2 more. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
Make sure, but do yourself a favor, okay? You remember how I would talk about don't have the sprint review and the sprint retrospective in the same room? Remember that?
Cool. Yeah.
This is the same thing. Do not have this in the same room. Make sure that you separate this into a separate location so people have permission to go. Okay, so if you do that, that triggers that it's a different event, different meeting, and that they don't necessarily need to be there. That way you get the pressure off the development team from feeling like they need to satisfy the product owner's urges and needs, to moving toward them satisfying what they need to do to be more effective during the sprint. And so you separate that by separating rooms. So just make sure you make a distinctive difference between the two. And if you're able to do that, then that's going to be beneficial for you and ultimately beneficial for them. Okay?
Great.
That's good, man. Now you can get in touch with me anytime, my friend. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate you.
But it's
Any
good
other
to
questions?
see you and talk to you.
Yeah,
No, I think that's it. I think that's something I'm going to experiment with. For sure.
Yeah, well, let me know how the experiment goes, and you know what I would love? I would love for you to come back here after you've run that experiment a few times and tell us how that experiment went. Because it's one of those things where I've tried these things before. I could be completely wrong about what I'm telling you, and I'd like to know if it went well or didn't go well. I think it's going to go super well for you because I know how you are. So, my brother, I appreciate you, man. I'll see you soon, okay?
I will see you soon. Thank you, Devon.
All right, have a good one, Fidel.
You too.
All right, that was excellent. I actually enjoyed that. It's always good to see people that I've worked with, and that's always a good thing. I feel like a proud papa, especially when it comes to Fidel, because I remember how enthused he was about Scrum, and I remember how enthused I was, right? And so that's excellent, man. I can't say it a better way, right? And for those who have asked questions, we are going to create a book list. We are going to make sure that the community is available to you. Just know, February 1, the community will be available. Okay. And I will be sending information out about that. You will know during the show exactly where to go to join that community. I just need to get a few other things, you know, crossed, dotted, all that other kind of stuff. And I'll make sure that's available to you. But we will make sure that there's a recommended book list there for anybody who needs to consume that kind of information. So, on that note, I have someone else that I'd like to go ahead and pull into the green room here. And we're going to start by bringing Tish in. Tish, welcome, welcome, welcome. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Excellent. All right.
Excellent.
What's your question?
So I have a question.
Okay.
I'm a new Scrum Master, took your class, loved it, feel passionate about going in this direction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to apply for jobs.
Yeah.
Can you tell me anything about how to instill confidence in any employer who might consider hiring a new Scrum Master? I've noticed as I've been applying for a large volume of jobs because I need to find a job.
Mm-hmm.
They're asking, how many sprints have you completed? And other things that make me feel like they want someone with vast experience, even if the job title says Junior Scrum Master.
Well, I would say to you, a lot of times when it comes down to job recs, these job descriptions, they always ask for the sun, the moon, and all the stars. A lot of times what they're trying to do is get a good fit in, get a good person that's going to fit well with their culture, with their team, and everything else. I believe you're already doing some of the things that you decided to do. You attended that Brandon Land that I talked about before, which turned out to be some good things to do on LinkedIn, and with your resume, stuff like that. A lot of the tricks is getting past filters when it comes to recruiters. And if you're able to get past filters, then you're going to be in a good position when it comes down to organizations that are looking for somebody who's not so experienced, looking for somebody that's willing to grow with them. But I would also think to myself that, hey, most of these jobs aren't going to want me. But let me find the ones that I really, really desire. The ones that I feel like I really, really fit into. And even though you may not have done quote unquote Scrum, I guarantee you've done some Agilist or Scrum type stuff in your life. If you think about the most basic definition of Scrum, a plan time box, you evaluate the plan along the way, and you get to the end and you review the product and the process and you start all over. You've probably done that someplace else in your past. You may have not called it a sprint, but it's something that you've done. The question is, can you translate your other experience and make sure that they can see that your other experience is valuable and will be valuable to them, even though it wasn't necessarily specifically called Scrum. So I start thinking about how I can position my resume to get in front of them so then I can at least get the interview. Because the biggest part is getting the interview. Once you get the interview, then it's just about selling yourself at that point, right? I find that one of the biggest problems that we have is in selling ourselves. And one of the good things is volunteering helps. Going through a certain amount of sprints, especially when you have volunteered, is going to be help. Pushing that volunteerism, associating yourself with people that are related to Scrum, associating yourself with events that are related to Scrum. So like finding a way to join a Scrum conference in some kind of way. That would be a good thing. And I'm not talking about being a speaker. You don't have to be a speaker at these things to say you attended this and you've attended that and you've been involved in a meetup group and the meetup group is doing this and the meetup group is running sprints and the meetup group is doing this and we've done that. And those kind of things are going to be helpful for you when it comes to having that conversation. So what I'm more worried about for you is getting past the filters, getting the interview, and getting the conversation. If you can get to the conversation, you can steal it, because at that point all you got to do is just show them how enthusiastic you are about this and how you're involved in certain things and how that's going to help them ultimately with you being on the ground doing the Scrum. You take an example like this right now. You're called into a call-in show. How many people who are new to Scrum have done that? have sought out advice? Not a whole lot. Okay. And so that already helps you to stand out as a person that's eager to learn, eager to enjoy. Now, one thing that I would always say to you is make sure you interview them. You know, when you have that first interview, like for me, when I think about my interviews, especially when I was doing a lot of them back in the day, right? I always would think of my first interview as a practice interview. Like the first one's gonna be a practice one, right? But one of the main things that I would do is get to the end of that interview and ask them, you know, you have a perfect person that you're thinking about for this job. Can you tell me some of the characteristics of that perfect person? You know, I am trying to get them to give me more information to help me understand better. And sometimes you may even know whether it was a good fit for you or not. But one thing people will do is they'll be slightly or kindly honest with you if you actually ask them a question. So if you get that opportunity, I definitely would be asking a couple questions that help me to get better. Help me to get better for the next interview. So I know one thing. I don't have any control over them picking me. I don't. But all I need to do is get one to pick me and I'm good. I get one to pick me, I'm good. Because then I can piggyback on everything else, right? When I left, I ain't lying to you. When I say I ain't lying to you, I ain't lying to you. When I left, when I got into IT and I worked for Experian for 6 months, became employee of the month. The last month I was there, and I jumped ship and went to Allstate. 6 months. I ain't lying to you. The reason why I did that is because I wasn't, I knew what I wanted. I knew where I was trying to go. I knew what I needed to have around me. And even though I may be the perfect fit for you at that time, it is my job to take care of my career. And so literally 6 months later, I left. No joke. When you look at my consulting career, it's a bunch of 6 month stuff. It's a whole lot of, it's some really good 6 month things in there because when I feel like I'm not growing anymore, it's time for me to go. And so it's one of those things where I want to say to you, you got to get past those filters. So do those things to make sure that your resume is as good as it can be. And that brand and land thing would help you. There are some other resources out there that can help you with that as well. I am going to be putting some things in the unfit community that will help people, the unfiltered community. I said unfit, scrum fit, unfit, the unfiltered community that will help out in terms of finding jobs. So I plan to put more of that stuff out there because I've been working diligently on things for this past month. So I believe that I will have some resources available for you as well. But if you've worked on that resume, you've made that resume excellent. Now it is just your time to practice on getting that job. Practice on getting in front of people. Practice those interviewing skills. Make sure that when you have interviewed, you make sure that you interview them back to understand and to make yourself better. Because I never think to myself, I've landed this job. I always think to myself, I've probably landed this. They're probably stupid enough not to go with me, but that's okay. Let me ask them some things to make myself better for the next group that comes toward me, right? Because look, sure. I'm gonna tell you how I think about myself, Tish, and I want you to think about yourself the same way. This is serious, right? Literally, I say to myself, and people who know me know this about me: get me while I'm cheap. Because when I'm not cheap, I'm charging a real fee.
I love that.
Get me while I'm cheap. I'm telling you, this is how I think it's ridiculous. Like when I say to you, when I think it's ridiculous, I think it's ridiculous. But that's exactly how I think. I say you better get me while I'm cheap. And I'm telling you, when I say that to you, I kid you not. I kid you not. I mean, I worked at Allstate literally for like 4 years, and I really tried to get a promotion. They would not give me a promotion. They wouldn't. And I left there, and when I was done at State Farm, they tried to hire me, for 3 times what I was earning there, almost 3 times, like 2.5 times what I was earning there. And I was like, no. You had the opportunity, and all I really wanted was a $10,000 increase. I would not be in this position right now because I would be an all-stater for life right now. Because that's what I thought. Because the first day I was there, I met the president of the company. I don't know how I met him, but he came down to the group for some strange reason, and I met the president of the company. I was just like, this is my company. No question. I am destined to be here. And man, I worked there for years, man, and I couldn't get a $10,000 increase in my salary, right? And I decided to leave. And literally 2.5 years later, 2 years later, they came to me like, "Hey, we'll give you double and a half." And I was like, "No, I'm moving on." And
I love
so
it.
it's nice to be able to turn things down like that, but I want you to
Yeah.
position yourself the same way. I want you to think
Sure.
right now, people are going to get you at a nice rate, and that's okay. You put your time in, you get your work in. And once you get your work in, you'll be good to go. But make sure you interview them along the way. But other than that, I think you got it. I know you're doing things outside of, this conversation. So keep doing that stuff. You have questions, reach out. Other than that, hopefully that helps. Any other questions?
No, that helps a lot. And I was putting together 2 or 3 questions I might want to ask in a way of interviewing them back. I have an interview coming up hopefully in a few days, and that was the exact question I wanted to ask.
Yeah, well, I
So,
would say to you that to make sure you ask that question, and I would say that once I open up this unfiltered community, bring those kind of questions to the unfiltered community, because I think I'm going to create a group around interviewing and job hunting. So, and then people can help other people, because I'm trying to get people to pay it forward. So it's one of those things where that will be some helpful information for people in the group. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in that group and seeing and working with you on other stuff in the future, Tish.
nice. All right. Thank you.
I appreciate you. You have a good one, okay?
All right.
All right. People. Let me change that screen. I would say to you, man, this has been good. And yes, Elizabeth, that brand and land is wonderful and great. I'm going to bring my man on here, the show, at some point in the future. We're going to work on some things so to make sure that's available to the unfiltered community. We get that knowledge here because that guy who did the brand and land, John Signo, he actually is a person that took classes with me. He's a guy that I support all day, every day. So on that note, I'm going to say, look, do me a favor, everybody. I didn't say this in the beginning, but I want you to pass this on to other people. I want you to take this and pass this on to other people. If you felt like you got any value from this whatsoever, I want you to pass this on. I want you to like this when I divide it up into smaller pieces, right? Because what I want to do now is I have made this community more for Bearded Eagle folks that have been involved in my classes. That is what I started this with. But come February 1, it's time to let the world know about it. It's time to make sure that it is available to everybody else in the world. So for the past 4 weeks, we've had a definite focus on people that I have experienced or have come through our company in some kind of way. And now it's time to make it available for everyone else. So if you can do me a favor, like this, because that's going to help us with the algorithms, and then also pass this on to other people. My objective is to get 1,000 people subscribed to this channel by the end of the year, and to make sure that we got 4,000 hours of view time. That is our goal, because our mission is to make Scrum easy for everyone. That is our mission. I'm for sure that we are going to be able to fulfill that vision in a wonderful, great way. If you want to see how we're working in terms of our roadmap, then join us on Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, we actually have our sprint closure and opening of a brand new sprint, because we're running weekly sprints to actually run this show. So if you want to see the insides of how we do things, you're welcome to join us for some of that stuff too. But man, like, subscribe, pass it on to other people, and I appreciate you. Thank you for coming. Look, next Monday, 8 p.m. Central Time, we're going to do this again. Come with your questions. There are no dumb questions. If you need a little bit of inspiration and spark, I got you all day, air day. So on that note, hey, I appreciate you all. I'll see you all next time. Enjoy your week. Have a good evening.